2020 BMW IBSF Bobsleigh and Skeleton World Championships at wintry Altenberg in Germany. And on this track, hidden deep in the forests of Saxony, some of the toughest races ever held. Welcome back to Altenberg, everybody. Martin Haven alongside me, John Morgan, as we get ready to start the blue ribbon event of any World Championships, the four-man bobsleigh. And if two-man is tough to get down this track, John, four-man is a nightmare.
Well, this secret East German training center they built in the early 80s, they wanted to build the toughest track ever, and they did. And some great pictures here from our team. And, you know, it's a long, flat start. It's a challenge for some athletes who are used to the shorter. But look at the steering. You know, it's not the person who steers the most that wins. It's the athlete steers the least. Look at the beautiful little, just a barely touch of that D-ring to get it around that first curve, second curve, coming up again. And, you know, no mistakes allowed up here. You know, little adjustment there. You know, you steer with it barely an inch. This is the Omega curve 4 coming up, and boy, that's where the problems 5, 6, 7. This is the labyrinth. This is the long straightaway above Kreisel. Big change of direction. Look at the squeeze. 2, 3 pressure points, and you hit the red flag and exit out to 11, 12. That snake combination into 14, 13, 14. Uphill section. You can lose time right here. And now the fastest part of the track, 17, 18. Andre Lange's got the old track record from 2008. Someone just put up $1,000 to the team who breaks the track record. Martin, it's the marquee event of our sport. It's a privilege to be here.
Yes, it is, and it's a great track for racing. We've seen some fabulous races so far in this 2 weeks of World Championship action, and undeniably the four-man is what brings the crowd in here. And to see this man, Justin Cripps in the foreground, but in the background, Francesco Friedrich.
Cripps.
Last weekend, he won his 6th consecutive two-man gold. Can he do the same thing in the four-man and take another double gold? Nico Walther, another hometown boy, has converted back to the FES four-man sled. He started the season with a new Stampfer and just doesn't quite have the confidence in it. Justin Cripps, well, he didn't have a great two-man weekend, struggling a little bit with back spasms in training, but let's see what he can produce. He was in the medals last time out, and the bronze medalist in his home track in Whistler. Well, we have 22 sleds in our four-man field. Brad Hall of Great Britain, Roman Heinrich and Patrick Baumgartner got the lucky draw to go in the top 3 ahead of our top 10 in the world. And they're ranked pretty much in the order you'd expect. Francesco Friedrich up ahead of Johannes Lochner and Justin Cripps. And then outside 13th, Jong-won. Everybody racked up in their world ranking. Benny Maier, Lamin Deen and the rest of the field. Tomorrow in the third heat, we will cut the field down to the fastest 20 for heat 4. But as of now, we've got a fast track. We had a new track record set in the women's skeleton race. It is a mild afternoon though. Sun is out, not too much else, says Ralph Mender, the ice meister here. This should be a very quick trek for Brad Hall, Taylor Lawrence, Luke Dawes and Greg Cackett of Great Britain.
Brad Hall's still pretty new with this four-man sled. He's done pretty good this year. You know, he's ranked 13th in World Cup points, missed 3 events, but a 5:24 start, well, that's 2/10 off the record. And the Francesco Friedrich team told me they're going to break the record.
Yeah, that record goes back to 1996, one of the greatest all-time pushing quads in a four-man. So that is a huge target for them. Brad Hall, self-funding this year, no funding at all from British Bobsleigh or from Lottery Sports. So he is paying for the sled with his sponsors. He's paying the team, he's paying the travel and the hotels.
So you get through 11, 12, looks pretty tame so far.
Oh, you had to say that.
Watch out here too. You can roll into that 14.
First sled down, and the curse of the commentator is already upon Brad Hall.
Get it out of the way. We'll just get it out of the way. He's throwing down. This is fast. 54.60. Track record 53.17. So
well, ice will be
I think
faster.
we're far. I think the ice will be faster in the second run when it gets the sun down a little bit
I think
more.
it's going to stay soggy. All the ice and the snow that's been on the ground here for the last couple of days is now slush and water. It is very mild. But if anybody can keep this track alive, the Ice Meister in Altenberg is the man.
Watch this last little dip up, little change of direction there. You see that red flag, and then they dive out to this 11-12. He's on the wrong side, hits that takedown before he goes in. It gets real high here on 12. And now the skid into 13, and Martin, this is not where you want to have a skid into that 13-14 combination.
Well, it's going to be exciting racing in the four-man. Brad Hall's first heat is done. Next up, Frenchman Roman Heinrich, another 29-year-old. It's his third World Championships, but his first as a driver in four-man.
So we have a shot putter driver, a discus number 2, track and field 3, and Justin Gatlin sprinter type 4. So we got a pretty good track and field background group right here.
There's 2 previous World Championships in four-man with Lloyd Kosterg, his driver, 24th in St. Moritz, 21st in Winterberg. Chances are he will be better here as a driver.
Had a pretty good year. He finished 10th in the World Championships two-man. He wanted to finish 8th. This guy from Grenoble just keeps getting better.
Best race here in four-man, 15th place in last year's World Cup race. Same sort of level field here. And he's in the red behind Brad Hall despite a fractionally faster start. 1300s back as he gets to this 3 pressure Kreisel.
A lot of steering to get out of there that quick. Losing more time.
But tidier and doesn't skid into corner 13, so this should bring him back closer to the British
14.
sled.
Stop the bleeding there. Speed.
Flying down through corner 16 at the line.
Oh, you
rocky.
see that 11. He got back a little bit, but...
Well, he's not the only man who's nearly rolled off the finished corner. Saw a little bit of that in training.
Training was pretty mellow. No crashes.
Driver from the Czech Republic, Dominik Dvorak, nearly rolled it off the final corner in the last training run. The crew were all laughing like drains when they got out of the sled. That sort of slightly terrified roller coaster laugh.
Okay, the choreography on ice of the sport of four-man bobsledding. Get in, get down. The number 2 guy waits for 3 to settle. Then they come in with their hands perfectly in cohesion. And here he climbs to change of direction. Boy, the sport, Martin. These big four-man sleds. Now this is, this is the track they say what Darlington is the NASCAR. This is the bobsledding. It's not a super speedway, but boy, it's difficult to get down.
Patrick Baumgartner of Italy in an old Stanford sled that was driven initially by Simone Bertazzo. Bertazzo now part of the coaching crew for the Italian program.
Baumgartner is a very accomplished driver, junior world champion in 2012, the Youth Olympic Games.
Yeah.
They just don't get starts. They just, and what we saw this morning in the men's and the women's skeleton the last 2 days, the Italians have some good young athletes with good starts.
Yep.
So they got some great potential as they build towards Cortina Milan in 26.
Last day of training yesterday, I was talking to him and he was laughing. He said every mistake he can make, not in one run though. He said every run there's a little mistake. They're all different. He's finding out a lot about this Altenberg track. This is a smooth looking run.
Yeah, this is what he does. He's a great driver. Came from alpine skiing. And the Italians, a little quick there.
Yeah, hauled it off there quickly.
Speeds.
Across the line, 2800s back.
Third, so there's 3 sleds separated by 2800s. Martin, I don't know if we can take another race like we saw with the women's skeleton.
We might need
the men's skeleton. It's really,
yeah, for those of you who missed it, the men's skeleton, the top 3 after 4 heats were covered by 500ths of a second. In the Olympic 100-meter final in Brazil, Usain Bolt beat Justin Gatlin by 900ths of a second. That was first to second, over 100 meters of track. Unbelievable
the women's race,
racing.
7/10 difference between the second and first place sled in the last run.
Yeah.
And Tina Herman came out of nowhere to break a track record on a slow track. But, Baumgartner drives well.
Yeah.
But to start, you probably have one of the worst starts of the 22 sleds. And, you know, sentences him to the back of the field.
Here is our reigning world champion in 2-man and 4 from Whistler. He's also our 2- and 4-man Olympic champion Francesco Friedrich on home ice with Candy Bauer, Martin Gropkop and Alexander Schiller. This is the A-team.
5:04, 5:01, they broke the record.
Already first heart.
They told me last night 5:03 they were going to get the record.
He has only been off the podium on this track once since his debut in 2015. He was 6th then. He has never failed to medal.
Martin, 12 years ago now, he was a forerunner at the 2008 World Championships. In the first heat of the 2-man last week, he broke the track record by half second.
Second highest speed into the Kreisel. This is the new FES-built 4-man, 119.5 top speed. Now, how close will he be to the track record? 53.17 is the mark set by the great Andre Langer in 2008.
54.25, 3,500ths lead. That tells you we've got a slow track here.
That's 800ths of a second off a 12-year-old record. I beg your pardon, 1 second.
Yeah, this is a slow track.
Yeah. Right, it ain't slow at the start area. That's what you get for warm weather. You get a slick start groove.
Now, this is, you know, 4 spectacular athletes. The decathlete getting in first here. You got a shot putter, you got a discus thrower, and you got a sprinter. And how they get in the sled and their aerodynamic profile here. Martin, do you see anything back there? It's perfect aerodynamics, as you would expect from any German team. And then down here, it's tough to fault if he makes any mistakes.
Yeah, a couple of little errors, late off 9, late on to 15. And that might leave the door open for his arch rivals, Johannes Lochner of Germany and Nico Walther of Germany. Hansi Lochner with Florian Bauer, Christopher Weber and Christian Rasp. Now, among the German drivers, he has been loyal to Hannes Wallner's 4-man sled. 2017 world champion in 4-man. He tied for gold there with Friedrich. That was on his home track in Koenigsegg.
They're going to have to get a 5:04, 5:05 themselves to have a chance to challenge here.
He's reigning European champion as well, 5:07.
Good speed, though. Look at the speed number. 46.3.
Well, he lost out. His place in the German team in the World Cup was taken by Richard Olsner at Christmas because they had the selection races here, Olsner's home track, and Lochner lost out. He missed the last World Cup weekend to come here and spend more Altenberg ice time. He does not want to lose out from lack of knowledge.
Martin, he's only 3 down. I was 3 ahead. He's lined up here. I thought Friedrich looked a little slow up top.
Well, Friedrich made a mistake off 9.
Only the 3rd best speed here, though.
Friedrich was 119.5. This is going to be very close, but this is Lochner in. Ooh, skid off 14.
This could be our first tie of the day.
He'll be behind at the line, but just by a whisker. Good speed. Oh, unbelievable.
We're going to be seeing a lot of that.
Well, that's what Johannes Lochner wants from Heat 1, to stop Francesco Friedrich getting away.
Start time. Now remember, they're tied, but they were 600ths behind at the start. Basically, Lochner outdrove Friedrich there.
Should be 1800ths back from the start deficit. They will be very pleased with that.
That mistake out of 14. You saw him adjust the runners. That took away the -3. This is up top. This is pretty good 9.
Out of 9, and Friedrich had a little.
Looks like a monobob. You don't see anybody back there. Then okay, let's see how the lines are different. Looks like Friedrich is a little bit more straight.
And
now watch Lochner at the end here. Watch the sled go up high near the lip. And then he dives out right at that red flag. Here's the mistake, though. Look at the runner tips. He knows he's in a skid, so he checks the runners, straightens things out. He lost some time back there, but he's tied for the lead.
All right, game on. Now, what can Justin Cripps do? The 33-year-old Canadian, bronze medalist last year in Whistler. His 7th World Championships as a driver. He did 2 as a brakeman before that. But he complained to the team about back spasms in training yesterday. 5-12.
Starts way off. He won the first 2 World Cups of the year in Lake Placid.
And the last one as well in St. Moritz.
So he's won 3 times, but last weekend we noticed it wasn't the Justin Cripps at the start that we were familiar with. And 1500s back isn't bad considering the deficiency at the start of 11.
Another man driving a Valna sled, so this thing should get good speed at the bottom.
And he's bringing it back. He's got the second best speed. So even with the deficient start time, Cripps is flying.
The highest speed
7,
there.
here he comes.
Hall, this is the top
Best speed. We could have a 3-way tie down here at the bottom.
Was 700s behind.
6.
Oh, little nudge.
Nah, he's not going to get it, but he's going to be only 2 or 300s.
Yeah,
2 or 300s.
Great run from Justin Cripps of Canada.
6. Okay.
Game on, here we go.
On.
This
now,
is
listen,
fantastic.
This is Cripps. This isn't the same Cripps, Team Cripps we knew early in the season that had start times similar to the Germans.
We started 5:12, 5:07 for Johannes Lochner, 5:01 for Francesco Friedrich, but in there swinging where it counts at the finish line.
Cripps has been fast all year, good speed here, a little bit of a tap before 13. 2-man would have been a lot more trouble there. These 4-mans, they're like big trucks. They start to go in their own direction. You can't really control it sometimes.
Well, again, despite a couple of errors, Cripps is right in the mix.
In the mix is correct.
What about Latvia's Oskars Kibermanis? Francesco Friedrich, Johannes Lochner tied for the lead. Can Kibermanis get amongst them? 7th start draw for Oskars Kibermanis of Latvia, silver medalist in the World Championships last year in Whistler. Lauris Kaufmanis, Dave Springers and Mats Miknis in the BTC 4-man sled. This is Oskars' 6th World Championships.
Well, they've been getting top starts, so they got to get a 5:03 or so.
He's only once failed to finish in the top 4 here in a 4-man.
5:05, well, that's in the mix.
Yeah, that's quicker than Lochner, and he's tied for the lead, and Kibermanis has been having a big season.
Whistler last year, silver medalist in this event.
He's not won a race in 4-man, not this season, but he won the last 2 2-man races, so he comes from Sigulda on a high. Oh, skid down the
He's
straight.
got the best speed, though. Look at the speed he's got into Kreisel.
This is a Latvian-built BTC 4-man. This is a really good run. Only the 4th best speed, though. He'll drop back into the red. Will he be ahead of Justin Cripps? Good run there.
Back. He might not be. He lost a lot of time. That little miss out. Now he'd be 1000s back.
Cripps and Lochner both skidded at the end, and he's 11 back. So he is in the mix as well.
He lost something there. He lost some time on the exit or the entrance to Kreisel. He had a little skid there. Had the good speed going into Kreisel, but it was wiped away from that driving error. I say driving error.
Well, this race, if it's anything like Skeleton, will be decided by tiny mistakes.
See that drift and that hit out of there. Look at the back end skidding. You see him check the runners. Look at the speed before Kreisel. Now Hall was the first guy down the track, so he had the best ice to work with. He took advantage of it. Kibermanis, look at the speed.
Brad Hall fastest into the Kreisel, 3rd fastest off it, 3rd fastest at the bottom of the hill as well.
Yeah, his problem, he's 2/10 behind at the start.
So, Oskars Kibermanis in 4th.
In the
1100s covering the top 4. Next up, 23-year-old American Hunter Church, 16th in Whistler. This is his first season racing in Europe. He's never been to this track before the World Championships.
Chris Horn, the brakeman's from UMass. He's a decathlete. James Reed went to the University of Maine. Watt Williamson's at Florida State.
Took a bronze medal in the 4-man race in Innsbruck, Austria, midway through the season. His first in Europe, the same place Stephen Holcomb earned his last 4-man medal in Europe.
Yeah, the start, 5th best start, 13th back. They had great times in training on Wednesday, but their sled broke, and he couldn't take 2 trips of training on Thursday. See how that affects him.
Nice from 4 to 5, no skids, no dramas. The first real crux point is here, the exit at corner 9. Let's see how clean he comes down the straight.
Steered hard, steered twice.
Tap and a hit, 2600s back. Lowest speed into the Kreisel so far, but a good exit straight down into 11 and 12.
Good lines, just not fast.
Let's see if he can hang on in front of Brad Hall, who is currently in 5th place. Now half a second back. He's going to be around Roman Heinrich of France. Gain
8th. Remember,
first time ever on this track in this fortnight. He's never been to Germany before in his life. The only European track he'd ever seen was St. in the Junior Worlds a few years back.
Great season. Second World Championships, he was up there last year and
finished 5th in the overall rankings, his first full World Cup season and his first on European tracks. This kid can drive a bobsled. Another couple of years of experience, and he may well be a regular medal contender.
16th last year in Whistler, at his World Championship debut.
So Hunter Church from Whitehall, New York.
No, he's from Cadyville, New York.
Cadyville, New York.
That's Cody.
Indeed.
Cody's from Whitehall. It's a good thing I'm here.
Thank goodness. Alexey Stulnev of Russia, 32-year-olds. 4th World Championships for him. Did not go to Whistler last year. His best result, bronze in the Worlds in 2017 in Koenigsegg, Bavaria.
Well, he's from Moscow, so was his brakeman, Maier. And, you know, as good a driver as there is in the field. The question is, can they get like a 12 or 13 start time? Probably. Ooh, 21.
Another Valner sled, so this should produce good speed at the bottom. Hannes Valner's got some kind of alchemy around his 4-man sleds.
Martin, right away I noticed a lot of red uniforms in the back. We'll see what that looks like in the straightaway in the exit of 9.
3200's back, so this leaves him in the top 6 at the moment, ahead of Roman Heinrich of France.
See the red? We couldn't, in the German sleds, most of the other sleds, you couldn't see any bodies back there.
5th highest speed, he's the 9th sled down. He is closing on the top 5.
This is what he does, he's a great driver. Just gives up too much at the start to be competitive.
Roman Heinrich in 6th, Brad Hall in 5th. That's roughly where he's going to be. 2 corners left. Double pressure
6.
at the end, and at the line, 7th, just a fraction behind Heinrich.
300s behind Heinrich. Heinrich was 100 slower at the start. Now you start thinking about the sled being scratched up. These aren't like skeleton sleds coming down the track. This is 1,395 pounds of a lot of energy.
I was talking to Ralph the Ice Meister about half an hour ago. I said, what do you think about the weather? He said, the good news for me is there's no sun. So the refrigeration is on hard, the air is not too humid, so it shouldn't frost up too much. But as you say, these are big, heavy sleds. It doesn't take much for the ice, the microsurface of the ice, to soften up in the heat of the day, and that just creates friction. Alexey Stulnev not mistake-free on that run. 9 sleds down, our 10th starter from just over the border. We're about 5 miles from the border with the Czech Republic here as we sit in Altenberg.
Another decathlete in the front seat. He's a physical trainer. Suchi is also a physical trainer. Sindelar is a 400-meter runner, and the brakeman is a physio. Probably taking care of them all.
Yeah, probably.
That's a good guy to have in the brakes. Your old physio.
4th World Championships as a driver for Dvorak. He pushed twice for Jan Verber. Best result for them was 10th in Winterberg. His 4-man best, 20th in Eagles. That was his first as a driver in 4-man.
I really thought he was going to have a breakout year this year. He finished 7th in World Cup points, his best finish. He's had 7 3 times.
Finished 7th in the World Cup standings last year as well.
I mean, as good an athlete in the front seat as there is from anybody in the field.
He's like a 10-9, 100-meter runner.
Yeah.
1:16.6, that's good speed.
We're about 4 miles from the Czech border.
Last World Cup race here in 2019, he finished in 6th position.
This isn't bad.
And right now it's a top 5 run from Dvorak, ahead of Brad Hall at the line by 11-12 hundredths. That's a good run.
Good run. The Czechs will be happy with that.
They'll be very happy they didn't nearly roll them off the final corner as well.
Dvorak finished 21st at the World Championships in Whistler last year.
Yeah. Well, he was very much less familiar with Whistler than he is with this Altenberg track. He's got good recent history here. Top 6 last year in the race. All the same rivals around him.
Great aerodynamic profile. Those heads aren't moving in the back at all. And look at the climb. Now watch the little red, oh, you don't show it there, the little red flag. That's the spot they look at to dive out of that curve. Here's pretty good into 13-14. Martin, he was pretty consistent all the way down the track.
Yep, that's what kept the speed alive. Nice clean lines from Dominik Dvorak.
Okay.
10 sleds down, 12 to go in the first of 4 heats in the 4-man bobsleigh world championships. Martin Haven and John Morgan watching the action, and Nico Walther, hometown hero, with Paul Krentz, Joshua Bloom and Eric Franke on the sled, the 29-year-old. Silver in the 2015 Worlds, bronze in 2017, only 8th last year in Whistler, but like Francesco Friedrich on home ice here.
They got to get a single-digit start time. They didn't. But, I mean, Nico, who had a horrific crash here in November in training, they almost thought it was career-ending. He didn't slide until mid-January to the World Cup in Winterberg, and there was doubts whether or not he was even going to make it to this World Championships.
He has only finished off the podium on this track once in his entire career, same as Francesco Friedrich. And like Friedrich, driving the FES 4-man built in Berlin, 3rd highest speed, just a whisker behind.
He's flying.
He is absolutely flying.
Best
after
speeds.
Missing the medals last weekend.
He's coming, he could still catch him.
Can he take the lead here? 700s back, still 700s back. He needs a great final corner. Dive for the line, no contact with the wall. 500s in it.
We got 3 sleds separated by 500s. Didn't we just go through this?
4 sleds separated by 600s.
Didn't we just go through this yesterday?
Hey, and this is just the first heat. What do you mean yesterday? This afternoon as well.
This was the best drive. Well, the Cripps was pretty good too. With the, you know, this was the worst start time of the top 4. The 5th best start. He drove himself into 3rd.
Nico Walther is in the mix. Now, one good run isn't enough because, you know, Friedrich will be top drawer every time round, and Walther desperately wants to win this one.
Do you see any shoulders back there? We see a little bit way back. Looks like the brakeman. But drift, he wasn't perfect there. Considering the start, he had a great speed in that Kreisel.
Good run from Nico Walther, our Olympic silver medalist. Next up, Michael Vogt, the 22-year-old. Last year, his first World Championships in Whistler, finished a barely creditable 5th in the 4-man. Seaman Friedley, his brakeman, was with Rico Peter in the Olympic Games in this sled. This is the same Stamford sled that finished 4th in Pyeongchang with Rico Peter.
With the best time in the final run, Rico Peter, boy, that start, the first heat, he was ranked 11th, so he started 16th.
Oh, and they just get in. Seaman Friedley, Cyril Bieri, Sandro Michel made that look harder than normal.
If you go back to 2018, the last event of the season before the Olympics was here in Altenberg, and Rico Peter had a horrific crash down in 13-14, and his team didn't compete again for 3 weeks later until the 4-man started in Pyeongchang.
Yeah, he was pretty beat up still, wasn't he?
Yeah, but he's still 4th. With that draw incident that he had in the first heat, he was driving the best sled of anybody.
Hello, hello. Here comes Vogt. 8th at the start. He's up to 6th before the Kreisel with the 3rd highest speed. Fastest sled of all.
This is Rico Peter's sled.
Quicker even than Francesco Friedrich at that stage.
Yeah, he lost some pack, though, and the exit of Kreisel.
Top 6 run from Michael Vogt. This is his 3rd season driving at the line. He's 1400s back. That is a great run.
8th best start time. So now we got 6 sleds, 1400s.
Right, so he's 1400s behind Friedrich at the bottom. He started 1400s behind Friedrich at the start. That's a good drive. That is a heck of a good drive.
Hey,
3rd season on ice.
He was 5th last year at the World Championships in Whistler in a rookie debut. Here wasn't perfect. This is where he lost it back. Look at the sideways, the tap. He tapped before he went into 15. He had to probably steer in 15. Look who's handling the sled.
Man in the white cap is the start record holder. Francesco Friedrich, Johannes Lochner, Nico Walther. Especially a dead heat for the 3 Germans at the top of the pile. So first 12 sleds are down. Next up is our other Olympic silver medalist from Pyeongchang Games, Jong-won, 34 years old now. with Kim Jin-soo, Lee Kyung-min, and Chai Byung-do, 19 years old and 6'5" and change. Chai, the back handles, youngest man in the race.
None of these athletes behind Won were with him for a silver medal.
Final run in training yesterday, got out of his sled with a bit of a smile on his face. I said, how's it going? He said, finally, one good run. Now he needs 4 more.
Yeah, he says he's just buying his time. He's not as fit as he needs to be. Next year, he'll start to bring it all together. Again, none of these people behind him were with him at the Olympic silver medal.
And he's taken the sled of Yoon Jin-suk, which is a newer sled than the one he won the bronze silver medal with a couple of years ago. That's what he started the season with. Suk not racing after concussing himself in a 2-man crash. Second highest speed. This is another Valder sled.
Only 2,200s back, considering the start. 10th best start. He's going to drive himself into a top 7 or 8.
8th of the line, 2,500s back. 7th, Dominik Dvorak, 2,300s back. So he's ahead of Brad Hall by a 10th off a 5:22 start. That was the 10th start in 13 sleds.
Well, he started to bring it down. Again, the 10th best start. He finishes in 8th. Quarter second back.
Here out of 9, just a little too much late pressure.
You see somebody bouncing back there. That's his brakeman. That's that new 6'5" guy. They're going to have to find a way to better fit him in the sled.
And snap him in half. But it's heads.
Ooh, look at that.
Forward.
That was a hard steer there. That was in 15. Saw the back end come around.
Yeah, we saw that from Roman Heinrich as well, hauling it off there. Ivo Danilevich on the left, former European champion for the Czech Republic. He's their ice driving coach. Next up, Benny Maier of Austria. 6th in the worlds in Whistler last year. This is his 5th World Championship start in 4-man. Ladies and gentlemen, back at 2, Marco Rangel with Marcus Sammer and Danut Moldovan.
Well, Benny Maier, his former sporting career, he lists as skeleton.
Well, that's also his wife's sporting career.
And his brother, younger brother, competed yesterday in the men's skeleton event.
3 silver medals, 2 bronze medals in World Cup racing in 4-man. Best here, 4th place in 2017. And the Exeter corner 9, he says, that's the one that's got him on almost every run. It feels okay, but it isn't. And that was better. There we go. Now he's working it.
7th best speed, only 2,200s back. Hanging around the top 10. Took a lot of that, but he's got it down to 2,000, 7th best speed.
Looking at 8th place, and Yoon Jong-won of Korea.
He fell back to 9th, little problem out of 14.
So will he be ahead of Brad Hall of Great Britain, or behind him? Little Rocky off the final corner. 500s, there's Wolfgang Stampfer.
So he had the 9th best start, he's got the 9th best finish, but he went late in the heat, Martin. I think the tracks
may not have quite as much, of course. Now we're getting to the drivers that finished lower down in the World Cup.
Look at the sign
standings.
on the right there. It says Bob Team Friedrich. You know why? Friedrich's the one that got him the sponsorship.
Catty Bile, his teammate there, helping out with the sled.
Okay, let's check the lines. Benny's in there high early, then he comes back down, centrifugal force, back up. Everybody has to go back up in the end now. Otherwise, the last adjustment up high and dive out.
So good exit line there, same as Friedrich, but little skid as he came out, and 11 and 12.
Pretty good.
Steered it a little hard off 12, skid from 13 into 14.
Well, these warm conditions have seen a track record a second and a half away from us.
Next up, Great Britain's Lamin Deen, 38 years old. He's the oldest man in the competition. Ollie Butterworth from the Parachute Regiment joins the Grenadier Guardsman driver, Ben Simons, and back in the sled, Tremaine Gilling, who hasn't had a race since the beginning of January. 5th in Winterberg in 2015, his best World Championship result. It's his 6th Worlds.
In with cat-like movement. Number 2 waits for the guys to settle in. Nice cohesion.
Nicely. It's
a very good start, though. 14th best start of 15 sleds.
Well, they were struggling to find speed in the sled earlier in the week, and Lamin told me yesterday, the other night, they stripped it down to basically every bare nut and bolt, took the entire thing apart, put it all back together, and it seems now to be flying a lot better.
Well, Lamin in 2015 was in a position to win a medal for Great Britain into the 3rd run, crashed on curve 9, but Martin, we were convinced he was going to win a medal that day.
Yeah, and he's got the potential still. They took all the paint off this sled, and as they dug down through several layers of different colors, they found the original base color. It was yellow and black. This is a former German team, Valner sled, so they know it's a good one. At the line, 15th place out of 15 sleds. On the right-hand side is the man who is helping out with the coordination this season, Sean Olsen, the 2008 Olympic bronze medalist in 4-man.
Yeah, Lamin, boy, he had everything going for him in 15. Look at the runners. Boy, he steered hard out of there, and then he's tried to steer away from the wall. You know, with these big 4-mans, they go in the direction they want to go in. Sometimes you just have to let them go and hit, and let the sled come straight.
Again, just steered it off a little hard.
This isn't nice skidding into 13 like that.
Yeah, the brakemen feel that as they get bounced up in the air. There's Lamin Deen. 16th of our sleds. Coming up next, Francesco Friedrich and Johannes Lochner tied in Heat 1. World Championship best for Markus Treichl in Koenigsee, Bavaria in 2017. He finished 16th, didn't race last year in Whistler, and he is struggling with a broken foot this year. Finished 8th in the last World Cup race here, and he has won in Europa Cup as well in Altenberg. 5:22 again, not the sort of speed that they'd be hoping for at the start.
Well, pretty tough when your driver's about 50%.
3rd World Championships for Treichl. His parents are involved with the running of the track in Innsbruck. That's how he ended up in this sport rather than, I don't know, soccer, skiing, whatever.
Came from luge, like Nico Walther.
A good exit off corner 9, gets it back to the driver's left, coming onto the Kreisel. 8th best speed, halfway up the field.
Pretty good.
It's a good-looking run, 11th at the start.
7th.
Ooh, little tap going into 15.
That's always nerve-wracking. Like this is too much to change of direction there in 15. He had to really haul it off. Lost a lot of time there in speed in 15.
That's like deploying the braking parachute on a drag racer.
Just ahead of Baumgartner, right behind Stulnev by 7. He would have been up there, Martin, maybe in the top 10. 1000's better, a bit challenging Brad Hall without that mistake at 14.
Those big skids, yeah, that probably cost him 0.2 of a second. Yeah. See all the sponsors down the side, friends and family have put money into the pot. Look at them all. Everybody there, from mum and dad, Oppa and Mama, grandparents there as well. Everybody put money in to fund the sled. 9. 9's been a like
challenge.
Like for everybody, yeah.
It's been a challenge since they opened the track. Here down in 11-12, the snake combination. He gets a little skid going to 13, and this is where he makes his mistake. 13, and then the exit of 14, he's still got a problem going. And now when he tries to steer over into 15, he has to steer really, really hard, and that cost him a lot of time.
First debutant in the field with a very famous name, Timo Rohner. With behind him Roger Limegruber, Joel Fearon, Olympic bronze medalist, reallocated now from Sochi Games. He was in John Jackson's 4-man for Great Britain. And Marouane Guillaume at the back of this 4-man Stanford sled.
2001 or 2000 World Championships here. His dad, Marcel Rohner, had just come off winning the World Cup title in St. Moritz. One of the favorites in the competition. He was the 2nd sled down. Crashed in curve 11-12. It was a pretty shocking thing for us to see because, again, he was one of the favorites in the competition.
Timo Rohner raced here in December in the Europa Cup. He's done most of his racing in the Europa Cup this season, but he had never been to the track before, so he's only got 1 race weekend plus training because he didn't go in 2-man. Late off 9. 55
to 56. That's going to fall back a little bit because he didn't have a great entry. That's not great there. Says we made it through where his father didn't, so
that's one Amy
Marcel Rohner won a silver medal. He was an awesome pilot. Silver medal at the Olympics in Nagano. I'm sure he's watching his son here compete.
Timo Rohner, as I said, only got 4-man training, didn't compete in the 2-man. That was Seaman Friedrich, who's on Mikael Vogt's sled, and Mikael Vogt himself.
First World Championships, you know.
First run, that's the loosener, just to get the nerves settled.
17th best start, 16th best finish.
And ahead of Lamin Deen at the bottom by 800ths of a second. Christoph Langen there, the start record holder, one of Germany's greatest ever bobsled drivers.
Yelling something at him right away. If anybody would know this track, it would be Langen. He won the 2-man World Championships here in 2000. Got beat by Andre Lange on the 4-man.
Yeah, Lange had a bit of success on this track, didn't he, over the years?
Well, that's when he started coming out. Was the 2000 was the coming out party for Andre. Coming out was when we first saw him in Calgary in December of '98. He started 21st, won the event.
Youngest driver in the field, 21-year-old Mihai Tentea makes his 4-man World Championship debut, who's done 2 Worlds, Koenigsee and Whistler in 2-man, but never in 4-man. He was 10th in the 2-man race last weekend. And at the back, the guy in the blue jacket who did training with them, that's Mika Pakianyu, who was in their skeleton team this year. Tentea only just got in.
Come on.
And Chiprinder Oxy, his 2-man brakeman, struggled to get in at 2 as well. A 5:24 getaway, that's a 10th quicker than Timo Rohner and his crew. And Mihai produced some really great driving in the 2-man race.
He was 6th at the end of the first heat. He was the only guy in the field. You looked at and said, what is he doing there? So he's got some talent, and he's young.
Good exit off 9, but the speed's not great, only 15th fastest. He's the 18th sled down.
Is he the youngest driver in the field?
Yep, 21 years old. So he's giving away 17 years to Lamin Deen, most of which Lamin has spent driving ice tracks.
The Romanian's last medal in the World Championships, 73 in Lake Placid.
And he is ahead of Lamin Deen. He is tied with Timo Rohner, so 2 rookies with an exactly identical time, 55.26. But the Romanians started a 10th quicker.
Well, if they end up 20th, those two, that'll be 21 sleds in that second run, 21-1, and then
that'll be that's tomorrow's maths. Now watch Mihai there, overshot there, dropped in, but wasn't the neatest, tidiest load these guys will ever have.
Yeah.
In fact, let's hope that's the worst one we see in the competition from them, because normally they're a lot slicker than that.
I've seen some wild start here in Altenberg.
That was wild, 11-12 as well.
Little drift. Not bad for this young Romanian. They do so much with so little.
That's the loose one, isn't it? He wants some better runs now. Now, what about this man? Last time we saw him racing on TV was in the Olympics in 2018. He took a season out, came back this year. Oskars Melbardis, 31 years old. It's his 10th World Championships, his 7th as a driver, and he's driving the 4-man sled that Ralph Bertjens used all year, and he's in the wall before corner 1.
That's crucial. Can't do that.
Bronze medalist in Winterberg 2015 as a driver. He took bronze in Lake Placid in 2009 with Yannis Minins driving. And he was the world champion in 4-man in Innsbruck in 2016.
That's when Friedrich couldn't hold the lead in the fourth and final heat in Melbardis from the winner's box. Got the Latvians' first ever world championships. He set a lot of firsts for Latvia, including the Olympic gold medal that he got awarded 2 weeks ago in a spectacular ceremony in Latvia. You were there, Martin.
Yeah, so Olympic champion 2014, world champion 2016. First year back on ice since Pyeongchang. This year he's been in Europa Cup racing, and he comes across the line 16th with a 55.07. Off the 11th fastest start. It was not a great load, and he is, 800s behind Hunter Church of the USA.
Well, it's all about this.
At the start and at the finish, actually, yeah.
Well, I'm sure he knows. He saw when he hit the wall, but, you know, that you have to clear it out of your mind that, oh my, I just made a mistake. Look, he didn't get in, look.
Yep.
Look, his foot at the
Yikes.
He's not as limber as he used to be. He's been through a lot of back surgeries, and he dominated the tour. Oh, look at this push bar. Just missed hitting the wall there.
Well, we always say the only time you remember how hard it is to get into a bobsled is when somebody doesn't, and it just shows you how tough this business is.
Good to see him back out here, though.
Yeah, he's not happy with that. Well, next up is our 20th of 22 sleds, Alexander Bredikhin. 12th in Whistler, the 24-year-old hasn't started a World Cup race this season. He was 9th here, though, in last year's World Cup. He raced here in December in the Europa Cup, which is where he's been all season long. So Bredikhin, the 3rd of our Russian sleds. And he's the 2nd in the start draw, 20th place, another Valner sled.
Start, 17th best start.
Well, Bredikhin's been an occasional World Cup competitor over the last couple of seasons when drivers have been injured or what have you. Couldn't make the World Cup team this year. Doesn't mean that he's not capable of a good top 20 finish. 17th fastest at the start.
Well, track's a little chewed up, no more speeds. They'll spritz it in between heats. Hopefully the sun will go down.
Well, they'll go 20-1 in the second heat, and then the other 2 sleds. So really important to be in the top 20. Even if you're at the tail of it, you'll get better ice.
Well, the first 5-6 sleds are going to get spectacular ice.
Well, he is now.
He's going to be one of them. He almost crashed.
In real trouble, and he is out to 20th off the 17th fastest start. He may not be in the top 20. Victoria Tokovaya there.
There's another Russian coming, Andrianov, who's a good pilot. Has had some top 7, top 8 practice times.
Yeah, I think Andrianov will be quicker than Bredikhin. 55.54 for Alexander Bredikhin. He's 20th of 20 sleds. I think he's not going to make the top 20. There's his big Russian fan.
Andrianov will get him.
Yep.
The runner tips pretty straight.
Again, Bredikhin did not race in the 2-man, so he's only had 6 trips down the track since he raced here in the Europa Cup in December to dial himself in. The weather was very different in training. Very different every day.
Look at the act, you know, he was on that wrong side of that 16.
Had to haul it off there. There is Alexander Bredikhin. 2 sleds to go, a debutant and a veteran. This is Ryo Shinohara making his 4-man World Cup debut, just 26 years old, with an older Valner sled. His first World Cup season this year. Started sliding in 2017. He did race here in December, so that's 1 race weekend he spent on this track.
Takahashi's about 6'3". They're still not in the sled. Settling around that first curve. Boy, you have to be settled before you hit the apex. That takedown of the first curve, they were not.
John, long time since Japanese have had a men's sled in competition. Great to see Shinohara in the World Cup this year.
Sure, Suzuki is here, the 4-time Olympian. I saw him, he's coaching the team. He was around Nagano.
Rattles down the straight into the Kreisel. All eyes, or his eyes, will be on the flag, the red flag to get out. There he is.
Good driver. We saw him in the 2-man. He's, you know, very safe lines.
Ahead of Alexander Bredikhin on the splits. No, he's not just. It's going to be close between him and the Russian, though, to be in the top 20. Has he got enough at the line? How close? 21st.
179, 5/10 off.
Peter Hintz helping with the coaching. But again, it's all about experience this season, building up for his, hopefully, first Olympics in Beijing in 2022. Ryo Shinohara of Japan. The Japanese have a World Cup male bobsledder for the first time in, what, nearly 20 years? Probably.
Oh, no. They were there in 14 with Suzuki. I think it was his last year. But then we didn't see him for a couple years. We just saw the women's bobsled team.
Yeah, that's kind of withered and died. They were just starting to come on strong as well.
Yeah. Top 10 finish at a couple World Cups.
Watch the runner tips there as he feathers the steering. So Ryo Shinohara and his crew. And the final sled in the first heat is for Maxim Andrianov, the 31-year-old Russian, making his third World Championship start in four-man with Andrei Lvov, Kirill Antyuk and Roman Koshelev. Fourth in Whistler, just out of the four-man medals, and eighth in Koenigsegg as well. Last year's World Cup race here, John, he finished in fifth position. He knows the track, he's got the hands. Can he get himself into the top 10 on this first run? Eighth fastest start.
Fifth in World Cup points last season, fourth at the World Championships in Whistler last year. You're looking at a very accomplished driver, starting late in the field and with a start time ninth best, so he should drive himself into a top 10 here, Martin.
And he's tough as old boots as well. Remember a couple of seasons ago he gashed his ankle and he was racing with it taped up for a couple of weeks. Great lines from Maxim Andrianov. Speed isn't sensational, only 13th fastest.
This is going to put him in the field for sure.
Yeah, he'll be in the teens.
Before we get said and done here, he's going to rush to the top 10 for this event. So
not sure the track is as quick as he would have hoped. 10th best speed down the bottom, though.
He's 2,500 out of Brad Hall's time. Brad went first, he went last. You're going to see him.
I would think the track will have got comfortably a quarter second slower in the 40 minutes that the sleds have been coming down.
All of them have come down safely.
Yeah.
Compared to a week ago during the first weekend of competition we had here.
It's a little softer. It gives the runners more grip. The driver's got more control. And they're through 11 and 12. Middle of the track into 13. Good exit here, watch the runner tips, no variation at all, got exactly the line he wanted. That's where the speed came from, down at the bottom for Maxim Andrianov of Russia. Well, our first heat done and dusted. We have a dead heat for the lead, not even 100 between Francesco Friedrich and Johannes Lochner. And the top six sleds covered by just 14 hundredths of a second. This is going to be a lively one. Johannes Lochner, critical for he and for Nico Walther not to allow Friedrich to get a big advantage.
But in the two-man, Friedrich came down, broke the track record by a half second. Yeah. He got away from the field in the first heat of the two-man.
He was in one race, everybody else was in another race. Right now, this could be close. Look at that, 4 sleds covered by 600ths of a second. The top 3 by 500ths. This is going to be great.
Michael Vogt was very impressive.
Yeah, Vogt, and look at Dvorak and Won, they're tight together. Heinrich and Stulnev 300ths apart. Treichl so close. It's going to be a really, really entertaining four-man race. It's a tough driver's track, but it always produces thrilling racing. First heat done and dusted. Second heat coming up at 1500 local, 1400 Greenwich Mean Time. That's in a little over 35 minutes. Join John Morgan, me, Martin Haven, and the IBSF TV crew for all the action that's fit to show from the four-man Bobsleigh World Championships.
Ist auch lang und